In this video, we are going to look into RStudio Workbench on SageMaker, and talk about how RStudio users in an organization can leverage the power of SageMaker to accelerate the development of their machine learning models and workflows. Here, I have already set up my SageMaker domain to access RStudio Workbench. Please refer to the SageMaker documentation to learn about setting up a SageMaker Studio domain. Link to the documentation is provided in the description below. Note that RStudio on SageMaker is a paid product and requires that each user is appropriately licensed. Licenses may be obtained from RStudio directly, or by purchasing a subscription to RStudio Workbench on AWS Marketplace. From the SageMaker console, select Studio in the left menu, under Control Panel. Then, click on the Launch SageMaker Studio button on the right. You'll see a list of users associated with the domain. Click on the Launch App button against your name, right-click on RStudio, and click on Open the link in a new tab. SageMaker will authenticate your credentials, and then give you access to the RStudio Workbench. This should be a familiar interface for R users. From here, you can create or manage your RStudio sessions, and also see a list of projects. To create a new session, click on the Create New Session button. In the New Session pop-up, you can give your session a name. There is only one option for editor and cluster, RStudio and SageMaker respectively. From the instance type list, you can choose an instance type you want to associate with the session. Choose an appropriate instance type based on your workload. Each running session is associated with a containerized compute instance. You can choose the default image provided by SageMaker, or choose a custom image associated with your domain. When you start the session, SageMaker launches an EC2 instance, runs a Docker container using the selected image, and associates it with your session. You can navigate to the SageMaker console, select your user profile, to see a list of running apps associated with your sessions. RStudio on SageMaker provides data scientists with the scalable, elastic, and powerful on-demand compute instances for their workload. Data scientists can use RStudio on SageMaker as their default local development environment. It is popular among data scientists to share their analysis and models through a Shiny application to RStudio Connect. You can connect RStudio on SageMaker to your account in shinyapps.io or RStudio Connect. Here is a simple example that we'll publish to RStudio Connect. To connect your publishing account, click on Tools, Global Options. From the list of options, select Publishing. Click on Connect, and follow the steps to connect your publishing account. You can see that we already have a publishing account connected. To publish your Shiny app, click on the Publish button. Once published, you can view your app in the RStudio Connect server. Next, let's look at how data scientists can leverage the other features of SageMaker, such as model training, hyperparameter tuning, batch inferences, model deployment for real-time inferences. For this, we'll be using an example provided by SageMaker. In this example, we'll be generating predictions for abalone age. Abalone age is measured by the number of rings in the shell. This example will use the public abalone dataset hosted by UCI Machine Learning Repository. The goal is to demonstrate how SageMaker can be leveraged by R users. Python users use Boto3 for low-level access to SageMaker, or the SageMaker Python SDK for high-level access to SageMaker. With R, we'll be using two libraries. Reticulate, which provides a comprehensive set of tools for interoperability between Python and R, to work with the SageMaker Python SDK, and Pause, which provides the same capabilities of Boto3 in R. First, we check the required R packages and install them if they are not available. Next, we load the Reticulate library to import the SageMaker Python SDK. Then, we create a S3 bucket for the data. SageMaker is a managed service. When any SageMaker resource is created, a remote EC2 instance is launched and managed by SageMaker. Access to AWS resources is managed by IAM. To provide the EC2 instances managed by SageMaker, with permissions to access other AWS services like S3, you need to associate an IAM role to the SageMaker resource. When creating a user profile in the Studio domain, you assign an IAM role to the user profile. Any app launched by the user, such as this RStudio session, launches an EC2 instance. The IAM role associated with the user profile is attached to the EC2 instance. Any AWS API calls made from the RStudio sessions will use the associated IAM role to authenticate to other AWS services. The SageMaker command get_execution_role retrieves the IAM role associated with this session. As we'll see later in this video, this IAM role can be used to launch other SageMaker resources such as training jobs, batch transform jobs, etc. The focus of this demo is to show how a data scientist can leverage SageMaker to enhance their workflows. Hence, we'll not dive deep into the specifics of the dataset, and focus on how data scientists can train models and perform inferences by leveraging SageMaker. Links to this example is in the description below. Let's download the abalone data and do some processing on the dataset. Once the data is processed, let's upload the processed data to S3. A SageMaker training job will use this data as an input to train a model. We'll use the processed abalone data to launch a SageMaker hyperparameter tuning job. A SageMaker hyperparameter tuning job finds the best version of a model by running many training jobs on your dataset, using the algorithm and ranges of hyperparameters that you specify. It then chooses the hyperparameter values that result in a model that performs the best, as measured by a metric that you choose. In this example, we'll train an XGBoost model using SageMaker's pre-built XGBoost algorithm. First, we get the Docker image URL of the SageMaker XGBoost algorithm image. Next, we define an estimator. The estimator class is a high-level interface for SageMaker training, which is used to define the parameters for a SageMaker training job. Next, we specify the XGBoost hyperparameters for the estimator, and also define the range of hyperparameters that we want to use for SageMaker hyperparameter tuning. Using the estimator, we define a hyperparameter tuner and launch a hyperparameter tuning job. Once the hyperparameter tuning job is launched, we can use the pause library to get the status of the tuning job. Let's wait for the job to finish. After the job finishes, we can retrieve information such as the best training hyperparameters, the evaluation metric value, and the training job that built the best model. Once we have the best training job, we can build a SageMaker model. This model can be used to get inferences on new data. SageMaker primarily offers two options to perform inferences. To perform offline batch inferences, you can use batch transform jobs. To perform real-time inferences, you can deploy your model to a SageMaker endpoint. Below, we cover both the options. First, let's take a look at batch transform job. We create a transformer to define the batch transform job parameters, and then pass the S3 location of the test data as an input to the job. Let's wait for the job to finish. Once completed, the output of the batch transform job is the predictions made by the model on the test data. You can download the output file and perform analysis on the predictions. Next, let's look at deploying the model to a SageMaker endpoint and perform inferences against the model. This will take a couple of minutes. Once the endpoint is ready, we can perform real-time inference against the endpoint. To summarize, as SageMaker is a managed service, SageMaker takes care of the infrastructure. A user can choose an EC2 instance of their choice, launch a session, and manage the RStudio environment as they need. This greatly reduces the administrative work around maintaining and managing RStudio environments for data scientists. Users have a lot of different options for compute. This gives them the freedom to scale up and scale down their compute based on their requirement. They are not restricted to only a certain type or a limited amount of compute. Finally, with the way the permissions are delegated to a Studio user, it is very easy for a user to interact with the AWS ecosystem and easily leverage the features provided by SageMaker.